Hey, I'm Peter and welcome to What's on Your Mind. Today I have something very special for you. Barbara Vercruysse. She is literally one in a million. If you would look up the word love in a dictionary, you would find a picture of her. This beautiful soul has survived a 4-stage cancer while she was raising a baby of 8 weeks. And the doctor said to her, "You're going to die soon." She recovered from that because she didn't want to die. Next to that, she also had a bankruptcy because she was a founder and an owner of a building company or a construction company. And also that she overcame. And from now on, she has been reading lots of books and inspiring lots of people in the world, also coaching people around the world. And definitely check her out because for me, she's one in a million. I have very good and great memories of our conversation. So enjoy Barbara Vercruysse.
Welcome to What's on Your Mind with Peter Snowart. Every week, a guest talks about his or her story, and that story can inspire you to change your own. Here's Peter.
Hi, Barbara.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm fine. It's a joy and a pleasure to be here with you tonight, Peter.
The feeling is mutual, is the same. Now, Barbara, it's what are we? The beginning of almost mid-September 2020. I mean, we're still in no, not Corona times, but it's a little bit the after. What do you call it? The aftermath.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Now, I assume for you also it has been a very special time.
Yes. In the month of April.
Yeah.
So I have 3 pillars in my business, and one pillar is doing quality management and business coaching for BMW. It's one of my biggest clients. Since dealerships were closed in April until beginning May, so I was at home all of the time. So was my husband. He could work from home on, and so were our 3 children who are 21, 19, and 17. So at the beginning, I was like, oh my God, 5, you could say, adults at home together. That will be quite an explosive atmosphere, but it was just the opposite. There was lots of harmony. And from the beginning, I have told myself something good will come out of it. So I have learned you could say, having been faced with many challenges in life, that once we give in to the circumstances and we let the circumstances decide our mindset, we're lost. Mm-hmm. If we study, you could say, fulfilled and successful people, they can stay in a very strong mindset regardless of the circumstances. Mm-hmm. So from the beginning of staying at home, I have used, immediately I set in like a strict routine for myself. I got up early. I did meditation, affirmations, reading, because I could have seen it as a vacation and just be, like lazy in my couch. But that's not my temperament. I am very much, I don't know if you know that, I survived the stage 4 skin cancer. So, and since that's 18 years ago, since that moment, you could say, I do not waste any time in empty consuming or in, you could say, it's just precious. Every moment is precious for me. So during the beginning of the lockdown, I had my routine and I started writing, and I created a new online program. Okay. And I started being really active on LinkedIn, which I wasn't so much before. So I just looked, and I think that's something that's just a gift to ourselves in whatever situation. Keep looking for the opportunity and a possibility.
Now, you said you survived 4-stage cancer. You also had other challenges in your life.
Yes,
I'm aware.
I had. Yes.
Now, I mean, you're talking about strong mindset. What is that a strong mindset for you?
A strong mindset, I will give you an example. When I was told, I was 32 at that time, that I had 6 more months to live.
Mhm.
The first night in hospital, before I was having my first surgery, I had 2 surgeries and a year of chemotherapy. The first night, my children were 3 years and a half, 2 years old, and there was a newborn who was 8 weeks old. And as a mom, or as a young parent, you could say, it was the first time that I was without children, all alone in a hospital bed, looking at the ceiling. And I was missing them, like physically, because, you know, like babies, toddlers, that's very physical experience. And I started crying. I was like, I miss them. But then immediately, I went in a certain awareness, saying to myself, Barbara, they are so young. They have no clue what is happening right now. Mm-hmm. 2 of them were with my parents, and one was with my parents-in-law. They were surrounded by love and warmth. It was as if they were on a vacation, on a holiday. So I could immediately see, okay, they are good where they are. So what is it in this moment that you can do to help yourself? What is it? And I know there was one thing I had control over. I had no control over my health. I was surrendering to the good care of the doctors, you could say. But the one thing I had control over was my mind. Mm-hmm. And I switched and I say, okay, if I go into some drama and negativity and a scenario that I will be dead in 6 months, it will weaken me. And even, you could say, even if I would have died in those 6 months, what would it have helped me to spend my last 6 months in negativity and sadness and sorrow? So I made that shift. So a strong mindset, you could say, is when you decide what you focus on. You decide. It's not your circumstances that run your thoughts, mm-hmm. that make you go into panic. You detach. You detach because, of course, the first moment it was surreal. The first moment I was in panic. Of course, I'm human. And that was a shocking news. But then I detached. If you have, I think, that power, you know, like mm-hmm. detach, and you choose your response. Mm-hmm. Choosing your response is having a strong mindset, knowing that you have the choice.
Now, was that a kind of a silent voice, an intuition that spoke to you at that moment? Or was that something that you learned by, I don't know, reading books of Eckhart Tolle or even something like Tony Robbins?
No, it was really a voice within me. Mm-hmm. Because at that moment, you could say as a child, I was very spiritual. Mm-hmm. Very. I was, Jesus was close to my heart. I was a very, you could say, I was just a spiritual side. But as many people, once you go in adolescence, you go the other way around. So you mm-hmm. become 15, 16, and you say, oh my God, that's all bullshit. Mm-hmm. You have your first heartbreak. You see your parents are not perfect. You come into the world and you're like, oh my God, this is such a dark place. It's as if in your childhood, you have that purity, that innocence. And then in that adolescence, in searching your identity, you're like, oh my God. I even asked my parents, like, why am I born? That was so selfish of you to put me on this earth, and now I'm here, you know. And you know, they looked at me and they nodded. They were like, "Oh my God, you're crazy." So, in searching your identity, and then you could say, I just followed the path what was expected from me. Okay. My choices were based on unconscious choices. So I went to college. I met my husband. I married, and then at the age of 28, I started a construction business, which was a similar business of my parents. I grew up in a construction business, so I wanted to be a business owner or entrepreneur. I really had that drive within me, but didn't know too well what to do. And being faced with death, being faced with the cancer was really a wake-up call.
Yeah.
Was, you could say, and it was my soul whispering to me at that moment. And I even had a more intense experience after my second surgery, which was really profound. I don't know how open-minded your listeners are, but then I was in so much pain, so deep pain. And I was like, in a moment, I was like, okay, I surrender. I give up. Like, if I have to die now, it's okay. And at the moment that you could say surrender, I had a deep experience. It's not like a voice was saying me something, but I felt like that deep warmth saying, you will be okay. It's okay. And from that moment on, even before the doctors knew, I knew I was going to survive. And I still had to go through a lot of chemotherapy. But deep down, I knew I will survive this.
And so can I say that this experience was one of the greatest gifts you ever have gotten?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because, like 16 years later, I had another huge challenge. But you could say, crisis that I faced was a blessing in disguise. But it's only a blessing if you are willing to learn the lesson. I could have responded in another way. And maybe I would have needed another crisis to see some things, to wake up, you could say. Or maybe, like you have people that within their lifetime, they never see it. That's okay. That's okay too. Every experience is a chance, is an opportunity you get. But it's up to you what you do with it.
Yeah.
Are you choosing to become bitter, to become angry? A victim.
And was then the seed born or planted of your personal coaching?
Yes, absolutely.
Was it like I have a gift in myself, I want to share that, I want to transform people who are living unconsciously into more conscious people, leaders, whatever you want to call it?
Yes, that was the seed. You could say, started to listen to the whispers of my soul, as they call it. Like the voices, I had to quiet the voices of, you could say, the head, and also the people, those voices which are in your head all of the time. Your teachers, your peers, your parents, your culture, like those, you are really brainwashed, conditioned. So I had to undo lots of my programming and conditioning to allow myself to make certain choices, because there was so much fear. As you must know, we live in you could say, where we live here in Belgium, there is still, we just talked about it. There's something that people still look at you in a certain way if you step out and you say, look, that's me. So to becoming the real me, I needed so much courage. And it's the cancer, you could say, who gave me that courage.
Yeah.
Because I was thinking, okay, if at 32 I would die now, would I be happy with my legacy? And the answer was no. No, I would not have been happy with what I left behind. So that's when I was so becoming conscious about building a legacy.
But also the fact, if you have cancer, I mean, you no longer care about the way you look, the way the opinions about other people, all those conditionings that are in you. I mean, the fear, there is nothing to fear anymore. You're going to die. So
absolutely.
Let's surrender and we don't care anymore and let's go full frontal. Did you also lose then friends and people in your, did that
in the journey?
change?
Yes, absolutely. So I started, you could say, a journey of self-discovery. Started reading books, going to conferences. I followed coaching certification courses, went to retreats, went meditating with Zen monks, you know, like I really wanted to absorb and to learn and to learn. And you could say there was a natural sense of homecoming. I was like, okay, this is it. Yes, this, I feel that this is like a genuine way of living. So it took me quite some time. So, and the cancer was in 2003. And really, when I recovered from the cancer, I still continued my construction business because, you know, you have investments, you have, it's not like I could close my doors and move on. So I continued and I started doing coaching as a side business from 2014 on.
How did that happen? Was it somebody asked, Barbara, I want you to coach me? Or did you just
I
coach
started
somebody?
like on Facebook, like sharing some articles, sharing some that was the early beginning here. And I didn't make videos yet. I made posters and on my personal Facebook. So, and people in my close surroundings started to know. So here and there, I got clients. And in 2016, we got a huge challenge in the construction business. We got betrayed by 2 of our employees and we ended up with huge financial losses.
Okay.
So I was forced to close down and ending with huge debt. And you could say, well, I had my ceiling moment again. One day, it was a horrible time. It's a time of lawyers, of creditors, of, you know, like I really do not wish that to anyone. And one day the bank called. We had already sold our office building and they wanted to come after our private house. They wanted us to sell it. So, and we didn't expect that. That was really shocking. So I was laying in bed and I was looking at the ceiling and I was saying, you know, like, seriously? I survived the stage 4 skin cancer to maybe end up homeless? And then I was like, okay, what's the lesson here? What's the lesson here? And I had a deep sense, like what I realized or what I heard saying to me, like, Barbara, whether you are homeless or you live in a castle, you are worthy. You are a good person. Whether you have material possessions or not, it doesn't matter. And that was a deep sense of self-worth that I didn't have before. I was like most people, although I maybe didn't really admit it to myself, but the house, the car, the things, you know, like it was part of my identity. I was attached to it. And almost losing, you know, like I lost almost my health. Then I lost, you know, like the entire business was, again, for me, it was the universe saying, like, Barbara, stop that construction. You have been holding on to that much too long. It's time for you to change, to change careers. And in the week that followed, through one of my personal coaching clients, I got an offer from BMW to go working with them as a contractor. And in the beginning, it was work, you could say, below my level. It was more administration, but I swallowed my pride. I had to. If you are in money trouble, the best thing you can do is work. There's no magic to it.
Mm-hmm.
So, but if you have a kind of intrinsic quality,
Mm-hmm.
it's noticed. So after 2-3 months, they asked me, can you do quality management for us? Can you do looking for everything with customer experience, customer centricity? And I said yes. And within 6 months, I was part of the management team. So if I wouldn't have swallowed my pride in the beginning, I wouldn't have had BMW as one of my biggest clients now. So, well, yes, it's that was another huge lesson.
Now, do you is that when was the time that you said, I'm going to use these lessons, and specifically I'm going to help entrepreneurs and corporate leaders? Where did you get that? Because you can also coach other people. I mean,
yes, I have seen that the need, entrepreneurs are business owners can be very lonely in their journey.
mm-hmm.
Where you could say maybe employees, first of all, they have a safer life.
Mm-hmm.
They have chosen for a kind of safety in having a company contract. It's a different journey.
Mm-hmm.
And they have colleagues, and maybe it's just that I'm aligned. I'm a driven and passionate person.
Mm-hmm.
And an entrepreneur in se is always passionate about what he's doing, because he's making a tough choice. He's making, like jumping and taking action. Otherwise, he cannot exist for a long time. So I think that's a certain alignment and maybe a mission to see entrepreneurs as a whole being, not only a being that is into action and really teaching them about resilience, about how to respond to almost, like changing conditions, but really be powerful instead of choosing anger or a certain, like detaching.
Yeah. My assumption is, especially in Belgium, that most entrepreneurs, and I know it's changing, are quite left brain minded people. So really analytical and really focusing on the doing.
Yes.
And it's really, I really believe that it's not in the doing, it's in the being that you first have to start.
Yes.
Are you then introducing like meditation, helping entrepreneurs by introducing meditation?
It depends on the personality. I do not, suggest meditation or yoga to everyone.
Mm-hmm.
There are people who are better, who can have a meditative state when they're cycling.
Yeah.
It's when you're really that kind of energy. I really feel the energy of the person before me,
mm-hmm.
and really see, first of all, in listening, how they are talking. You can really hear, like, how are they an obstacle to themselves?
Yeah.
How do they, and what is not in balance? So how can we bring balance? And do it. I have clients that I work for a long time, for 5-6 years now,
mm-hmm.
and I'm really the approach of the little steps. I'm not the shocking. I can be quite. I'm very honest, and I can be shocking in the honesty, but I like the approach that I feel like that is going to help them without, I like to open the mind, you know, like bit by bit.
I have to think. I had a question, but I forgot it. It's about feeling that energy. When did and how did you discover that you are coaching from? I wouldn't call it your intuition, because
I have been doing that all my life, Peter.
Okay.
I was that person for my parents, for my brother and sister, for many friends. So I was a coach before I became a coach.
Okay.
I was doing it naturally.
But you can feel when you're meeting somebody, you can feel how that person is feeling, eh?
Absolutely.
Yeah. No, I know that. I have that too.
Even in a message, you know, like even in a book, I'm touching a book, I can feel it. So I do not read any newspapers. I rarely watch the news. I can watch like a few minutes and then, okay. And I'm very, very conscious about how I fill my mind, who I surround myself with. Very, very conscious about that. What I fill my body with. Not conscious enough. I like chocolate a lot. Not conscious enough. You know, like I'm human. I'm very human. So not conscious enough about. I'm eating quite healthy, but could be better sometimes.
Yeah, but that's it. Yeah, everything is connected with each other, of course. So that's There's also that human aspect, because I find that really, really interesting, because I really believe that everything is energy. But when you say that in a business context, they look at you if you have been I don't know eating
yes,
I don't know washing powder or something. They're like,
okay, but I won't let that stop me.
No, of course not.
I have I'm only since 9 months on LinkedIn, and in the beginning I was very, very reluctant to share my videos like I have on Facebook and Instagram, because there I have been since 5-6 years, and there my videos are really you know, like loved. People love, and in the beginning I was like, oh my God, this is a business environment, and I'm a heart person. Yeah. I'm a heart person. I cannot be different. So maybe the first 2 or 3 videos were still like in the back of my mind. This is LinkedIn. And I didn't like those videos. So I started sharing my other videos, and today I shared one. It's in the giving that you receive. And it was very well, it was very well, people love it. And I'm truly grateful that I feel it's my mission to be that voice, to be that compassionate voice, to be that voice who maybe translate the things that you and I read, what is very woo-woo stuff.
That's it.
I'm the translator to bring it in daily situations. Like, how can you go beyond that? How can you go beyond your conditioning? What choice can you make? How can you and I'm an avid reader. I love to read, and I started doing series now on the books that have impacted me, and that's very, very well received too. So I can truly be myself, and I think that's, well, the biggest gift to yourself. And so many people in business are not themselves. They wear a mask.
That's it. They think that by playing a role, that they have to play a role because it's in business. Yes. But I really believe, I also played a role. I'm 45 now. I really played roles, especially in big corporates. because I was conditioned that I had to act like that. Don't use the word hard in a context. Never ever. You are a sales guy. Don't use that. But the last years, especially also with the podcast, I had the same reluctance. I will do it about selling, and then gently the mindset and the personal growth was coming, and then with certain guests, there were no people anymore because I couldn't see any people anymore because with Corona I cannot see people. So, and then it feels so liberating to really be you and just speak and do whatever you want to tell. And if it resonates with people, I'm happy. If it doesn't resonate, well, I'm happy too.
Peter, you have to know I'm in at BMW almost daily. So I'm surrounded. It's a male environment. Automotive is 90% male environment. And yet I am who I am. But they love me for it. They know it's Barbara. And Barbara is joy, is smile, is happiness. And maybe someone who sees me for the first time is like, that's not real, she's fake. But somebody who knows me like very long knows I'm enthusiastic. Am I never sad? No, sometimes I'm sad. But then I look into the sadness and I'm like, what's happening here? Is there something, a part of me unhealed? Is there something that I have to take care of? Especially if something comes back, something triggers me. I have become like, okay, this is interesting. Let's look into it instead of judging myself.
That's it. That's the self-love. Isn't that, I mean, I see a lot of people having that kind of project-based. So they like, okay, I find a partner, then I get married, then I have a very cool job. I want to become higher and higher. Then I have children, then I buy a house and things like that. And then suddenly they're like mid-30, 40, whatever. And there are any projects anymore. Maybe they go for a mistress or I don't know. Yeah.
A new car, a motorcycle,
or a swimming pool
car.
Or whatever. Or then an apartment at sea or in France or whatever. And I mean, it will never ever fill your holes. Never.
No. And I was just going to say, Peter, if someone does that, but from a place of being and joy,
it's okay.
I don't care. I don't care. I love a beautiful car. I love a beautiful house. I love, but it's.
It doesn't define me. It does not define me.
No, it doesn't define me, and it's the other way around. It's an expression of who I am, instead of that having to fill something within me. And that's the big difference.
And also that it is not part of my identity, not part of the I am. I mean, if I sometimes have conversation like everything after the I am, these are roles that you are playing. But you can be whatever you want to be after the I am. A lot of people are scared of that thought because they see it as very limited or as if there is nothing there. But for me, it's just the opposite. It's just the opposite. It's just the I am. And that gives me like a very abundant feeling.
Yes. What most people have to learn, you could say, that it's all in the experiencing. It's in the experience. We cannot explain true fulfillment and that feeling of unconditional love unless it is experienced. It's like me trying to tell you how a rose, the smell of a rose. I can talk into 1,000 words. We can make committees about it, but once you experience, it's the experience. You're like, oh my God.
The taste of chocolate. Try to describe that.
Yes. And having the experience, that freeing experience, like your limited mind no longer controls you or doesn't control you all of the time. It's not, like you and I were not Zen monks in a top on a mountain, on a monastery. We have very real lives. We are in daily life. We are married, children, and we are, you could say we have triggers all of the time. So we have a lot more opportunities to learn.
Yeah.
And we have situations. I have situations when I become overworked, I go in a certain pattern.
Yeah.
I go in a pattern where I even work more to get things done. And I start judging myself for it.
Yeah.
But now I start to see it earlier and earlier in the process.
Yeah.
And I say, stop, Barbara, stop. But having that training, it's such a, you could say it's a shame in our society that the body is trained, that the intellect may be trained, but that it's so the power of the mind and the awareness, you could say, teaching people about awareness, that it's not done. Yeah. So you could say we are all toddlers. A lot of people are really immature. They want instant gratification all of the time. They get angry if they don't get what they want. They get bitter, and instead of looking at that and being liberated from that.
And they're pointing to the external world, and
yes.
they want to change the external world to make them feel better.
Yes,
and
we have all been there. We have all been there.
Nothing wrong.
Until we say it doesn't work.
It doesn't. It doesn't work, and I can only feel compassion, because they also have to learn the lessons, and it's their journey, and I cannot take away the lessons for them. So they have to go through I would call it pain, the lessons themselves. But once you realize that it's lessons, your life becomes much lighter, and you see every opportunity to heal, to grow, every aspect, and you can say, what is universe telling me here? What is the message behind this? Absolutely. Why? Instead of, oh, this is happening to me, I'm a victim, boo-hoo, I'm Calimero.
Yes. And many people sometimes people would say me, Barbara, you are blind for the darkness of the world, because I'm a very, I'm always positive and uplifted. And then I say, okay, the darkness in the world is an invitation for me to be the light. Always.
It's beautiful.
Without that darkness, I couldn't be the light.
Yeah, that's true.
And one of the things we came to do in this lifetime is experience that contrast.
Yeah.
You can never fully feel joy if you never had pain before.
Yeah.
It's when you're most thirsty that, that drinks, even, it's a lot better. So it's always that contrast.
Yeah, but I think it's really about our Western culture, that conditioning, that we think pain is bad. That is the real, that's something which is so
Absolutely.
wrong. Pain is not bad.
No, pain is not bad.
And we think we have to avoid pain. So what we do, we have sex, we drink too much alcohol, cigarettes, we work very hard, there is drugs, there is...
That's true.
Hey, you can run away on so many occasions, and we don't even realize that sometimes.
One of my favorite books is Talks from Krishnamurti. And there he says that it's very, you could say it's almost hilarious that after thousands of years of civilizations, people still run to pleasure away from pain. That we still haven't got that figured out yet. After thousands of years, we make planes, we have internet, we invented all of those things, and yet we cannot master ourselves.
But also the fact that we are conditioned, that our thoughts, we think is we. And once you realize that your ego, which is that mental construct that you created with all those masks, that it's not you, but it can serve you. You need it. It's nothing wrong with it. You need it to achieve something, to take action.
Otherwise you wouldn't be living a human life.
But there's some kind of observer you can look to, and especially when you're meditating for quite some while, you you start to see that, experience that observer.
Yes, yes,
Meditation can be very broad. I mean, I'm talking here about the
yes,
classical meditation, but indeed also people who go up into some kind of meditative state by cycling, sports,
yes,
gardening, for instance,
yes, yes.
playing music,
Painting,
playing
yes,
music,
pain, yeah.
whatever, arts. So something where you lose track of time, friends, reality,
Mm-hmm,
and there is no such a thing as ego anymore. You become the dancer become the dance.
mm-hmm. Yes, life
Now
is a dance.
that's it. Now you just mentioned one book. What are the other top three,
Well,
four, five books you can
I
recommend?
have one, because you were saying something that really struck me about the ego being construct and a mask. Do you know Paul Selig?
No, never heard of him. I learned something
Okay.
new.
Yes, well, this is his 8th book, Alchemy.
Okay.
But that's for really, really open-minded people. His first book is I Am the Word.
Mm-hmm.
Those books, he is a conscious channel.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
he's
Mm-hmm.
channeling from
Yeah.
higher
Yeah. Yeah.
consciousness. So somebody said to me, Barbara, you have to read this. And 3 years ago, I was like, channeling, I don't know if I'm ready for channeling. That had some kind of connotation. But he was a university professor of drama.
Okay.
And he started having contact and hearing voices. But it's so beautiful. It's, if you want, it has been life-changing for me in the being. It's transforming, because I have all those books on audio too.
Mm-hmm.
And they say that they are a vibratory oracle.
Oh, I believe
So
that.
it's all about frequency,
Frequency. Yeah.
vibrations.
Yeah.
So the words are only, you could say,
It
a
doesn't matter.
transport
Mm-hmm.
for something deeper. So Paul Selig, I have so many books. I have Yogananda, you must know,
Yes, of course.
autobiography, Krishnamurti. I have some. I'm very much. You could say, I think in a former lifetime I was Indian. I have some
Okay.
kind of connection with India. I don't know if you know her. She had a spiritual awakening in Etty Hillesum.
No.
She was a Jew, and she was Dutch, so in Netherlands, a Jewish young woman, and she died in, I don't know if it's Auschwitz. Yes, it was Auschwitz. But her compassion, her seeing through the fear of the Germans was incredible. To have that view, she never went into victim, even when she had to carry the yellow star, even if she had to go into the camps. Very, very powerful. Viktor Frankl.
Yeah,
Man's
that's what I'm
Search
going
for
to
Meaning.
mention. Yeah, that's
Man's Search for Meaning is one of my favorites too.
it's over there.
Well, there's so many books. I have a video where I talk about one of the books that recently I listened to a lot of audiobooks. Awareness from Anthony DeMelio, who was a Jesuit, but he's from India. He's talking awareness about the observer. Very, very powerful book. Wow.
Interesting. I was expecting things like Vulnerability from Brené Brown or Eckhart Tolle, which are the
I
classics
go a
of
lot deeper. I go a lot deep. I love things, you could say, ancient wisdom. I have read Plato this year, about Socrates. So it's, I like to go to the source.
Yeah.
I like to go to the source.
Cool. Now, if you would go back in time with a DeLorean, because that's from the 80s, from Back to the Future, and you would meet the Barbara when she is 18, what would you tell yourself?
What would I tell myself? You are beautiful and you are worthy. always remember that. Because I have forgotten that so many times.
I find that very interesting. I mean, I won't call it, this may be a strange word, but awakening with all these things that happened, gifts in your life. I mean, you have 3 children, you told me in the beginning.
Yes.
Are they also?
Well, in a sense, as you know, that when you transform your being, your surroundings have the choice, or you lift them up or they stay away, like
Yes.
that's how it's. I have lost some friends.
Okay.
So my husband and I went through quite some transformation, because he's not at all you could say spiritual and
yes.
into self-development as I am, but we have been married for more than 20 years now. We have gone through crises, but the more I changed, I transformed my being, the more I accepted myself. And I changed myself, and I didn't want to change him, because in the beginning of a marriage, in the beginning, you put him on a pedestal and you think, well, I have the best man and he's a saint. I think that's something that are cultural. I have some videos where I talk about the difference between romantic love and unconditional love, where romantic love is attachment and control.
Yeah, that's like Disney. That's a Disney story, yeah?
Yes, yes. So, my children, well, they're still like in their teenagers, but I can see in their being, in who they are, beautiful things. And of course, they like to challenge me, and they like to laugh at me, and that's okay. I'm okay with that. If they imitate me when I'm doing a video and they imitate me, hi, I'm Barbara, and they like that's okay. That's who they are, and I'm not a saint. Or they would say, if like I'm upset about something, I'm very human, and they would say, Mom, I'm going to film you now, so the people see the real Barbara. And say, go ahead.
And don't they sometimes say, Mom, or whatever the relationship you have with your close surroundings, you don't have to be a guru, because sometimes I hear that you don't have to be a guru. My wife sometimes,
yes,
don't be a guru right now.
Recently, I had the car drive with my oldest, and she just wanted to talk about the situation with a friend of hers. And I started, like from my, I won't say analyzing, but saying you can do this. And she said, Mom, stop. This was not the kind of conversation that I wanted now. Just be a normal mom. For once, Mom. Just be a normal mom. And I was like, oh, whoa, okay. Yes, that happens.
I find that very, I wouldn't say challenging, the fact that you are transforming as a person, and you feel that your surroundings, your environment, how do you say that, cannot follow, or think you like,
well, that's okay.
And the thing is that when I want to see when I was seeing a coach about that, he's like almost 70, and he said to me, Peter, I mean, you can go to the US or to Australia and you can be alone there, but it's in the fact that you are in a relationships, that's where you are learning. If you are not in relationships, nobody's going to trigger you, and it's that trigger that you need in order to, so you can run away from it, but you can never run away from the lessons and the triggers. And I was like, interesting.
You know what Ram Dass said? Ram Dass said, if you think you are enlightened, spend a week with your family. So, and that's what I'm very much about leading by example. That's for me, and in leading by example, it's being in real life. I am in a corporate environment daily. I am in a family environment daily. And in that way, I can be of so much more value to my clients.
Yeah, because it's not from a theoretical book. That's
Oh
why
no,
that's why
no,
I
no,
asked the
no.
first question, because I see, and it's not a criticism. I see lots of coaches talking about you have to get a perfect, no, a positive mindset.
Mm.
But for me, it's a mental thing. It's more than a mental thing. It's really about that what you mentioned in the beginning. It's that combination of an physical and a
Mm-hmm.
mental, emotional, and spiritual level that you
Yes,
have to
yes.
see life through, and not just a mental level. It's not about not just visualizing or affirming or
No,
I have to be positive, I have to be positive, I have to be
no,
positive.
no, 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 no,
It's
no,
it's it's
no.
it's from much deeper that it needs to come.
Yes, and I have learned too that we all have our journey,
Mm-hmm.
and some people have a lifetime where they take a pause, you could say. And you and I have chosen for a lifetime to really break free, to really evolve in this lifetime. Other chose to not to do that, and that's okay.
And is that you, and now we're going to go very deep and it may shock some
Uh-huh.
people, but that's okay, that you are a spirit and that you had previous lives and that in this life this is your mission to evolve.
Mm-hmm. I feel like in this lifetime I came especially to close some circles. I have ended some circles. And how can I explain that? I had quite a challenging childhood, a complicated relationship with my mom, who was chronically depressed and alcoholic until 4 years ago. And I was her, you could say, I have always been her parent instead of she me
Mm-hmm.
being my parent. And it was quite a process for me also about forgiveness. And 4 years ago, my dad called, very personal story, and he said, you know, like, Mom, we'll have to get her to rehab. It's too bad. I cannot handle her. So I jumped in the car and I drove there. And she was in bed, and she was really, she had always like needed me. She always, I was indoctrinated from childhood on that I was the one making my mom happy.
She was
So I
leaning on you.
always, yes, leaning on me enormously. And I was like
Dependent.
kind of
Mm-hmm.
her savior. And there I was 47 or 46 years old back then. And I tell my mom, look, Mom, I've been sitting at the bed of your side for 40 years now. So I know what's going on. And then I started talking, and I don't remember so well what I have been saying, but I was talking, it was not Barbara talking.
Mm-hmm.
I have been saying, I said, look, Mom, every glass you drink, you push your family away. Every glass you drink, you are abusing yourself. And she was mean, and she was like, oh my God, and you went with your talk. And I just say quiet, and I talked and talked. And then I left home, and the next day she called me and she says, look, I made a decision. I'm going to AA. And she has been sober since. She has not drunk one drop of alcohol since. And I know she's healed. I can feel that. And I can feel like that's my lifetime here. I'm, wow,
Healing.
um,
Healing.
healing, and maybe also within myself, some ending of circles that, and my greatest mission is like showing people there is another way of living than the way that we have been taught, and putting that in, being that example,
Mm-hmm.
putting that into practice every day and sharing that, and being courageous enough, like going on LinkedIn and speaking from my heart and saying it's in the giving that we receive.
Yeah.
And being vulnerable. It's I think it's just in being me, and that's, I recently started writing a poem. Just let me be me. Let me be me. If we can all say that.
I really feel that you mentioned like 20 minutes ago about channeling. Huh? Yeah, you were like 3 years ago, because I had that also 3 years ago, and I changed my mind also about channeling. It's even like that when I'm playing music now, not 10 years ago. That was more like from an egoistic point of view. Look at me. I wanted to look at me. I need love. I need to appreciate. Right, and it changed. It really changed. Like 4 years ago, 3 years ago, no, 2 years ago it was. When somebody came after a concert and she said to me, you know, I'm very, very, very ill. I'm very, very, very ill. I'm a lot in pain. But this night, you guys, with the energy you brought and the passion you brought, you touched my heart, and I forgot the pain and the illness. And then I realized why I am a magician. And then I was like, this is it. I have a gift that I can touch other people's hearts with music or with this. And for me, since then, I am so convinced when I am performing, playing music, that I'm actually channeling vibrations and frequencies, same as
absolutely.
here. And so when you're explaining that story, for me, it sounded like you're in connection with that divine, intelligent, universal, whatever you want to call it. The quantum field, whatever. And that your body is that transport medium, that channeling something bigger, some kind of message of love. And it sounds a little bit la la land and woo woo, but once you feel that experience, you know it's there. And I feel it's like that. It's like that when you explain that about your mom. For me, it was like channeling.
Yes, that's how I felt it too. Like it was not, because I don't remember so well what I was saying. And I even have that in many of my videos.
Yeah.
Many people say, are they scripted? They are never scripted. Never. Sometimes it's in the car, sometimes it's at home, and I start talking.
Yeah.
And I don't know at the end, sometimes I don't know so well what I have been saying. But that's okay for me. It's about the one who's watching and about, is it valuable for them? And I always feel like it's what they needed to hear this week.
And it's the same with this thing here. It's that co-creation, that exchange of energies. I mean, there's a reason why we are having this conversation right now, because then you can feel, yes, this is it. This is now, this is it. This is the. And people said, yeah, you're good at that, but I don't know what I'm doing. I have nothing prepared. Okay, I've looked at your LinkedIn and I've saw some videos. I've seen some videos, but there it stopped. I didn't prepare any questions anymore because it was, well, I'm going to tap into that. I'm going to tune in, as they call it.
Yes.
And then you surrender, you give over, and you know, yeah, it's going to be fine. Instead of just making a mental, from the brain thing, because you can feel that.
I had an interview recently with a person who had so well prepared. He sent me an email with this bunch of questions. Then we are starting, and he says, you know, like, you read the questions. And I said, Lincoln, the first thing you are going to do is put your questions away now. You can ask me the first question, and then we will move on from there. And he was like a little like shaken up, and I said, it's going to be okay. And he was happy. And the first question he asked was so powerful. Never had that as a first question. He asked me, Barbara, what is your true essence? I was like, jaw dropped. Love. I said, love. But I never had that as a first question.
Normally it's to warm up a little bit, to feel, to sense.
Yes.
With me is also,
and he was like, he was really going. I was like, oh my God, I didn't, you know, that was an unprepared question, because it was not in what he had sent me.
But also, I mean, like half an hour ago, there was some kind of pause. This is not something I'm going to cut. I leave it like this because it's the silence, and it's beautiful, and I don't feel any fear or Like,
No,
ooh, there's some kind of no. It's like
no,
it's
no.
okay. It's there, and it's okay. We have time, and instead of, which is a little bit the opposite of today, where everything needs to be fast, like music
Yes, I know.
videos or whatever. It needs to be, yeah, fast, or even videos, YouTube videos. And
Yes,
that's why I chose just the other way, the opposite around, just
yes,
long
I know.
form, take the
Yes,
time, and
you
people
have it. You're
really listen to that and enjoy that, and they feel that vibe, but they cannot
yes, it's
explain what it
genuine.
is. Yeah.
It's genuine. It's genuine. Plus, you have a deep understanding, Peter. You have a deep understanding of what you're talking about, which is